What are we talking about today?
Got some gun myths, some popular gun myths. Some you may have heard of, some you may not. Including but not limited to racking a slide will scare someone off. Suppressors make guns silent. Appendix carry is unsafe for everyone. We've got a few more here if we have time, but we can start things off with racking a slide will scare someone off. So you've got a home invader. I know in my family, my grandpa always said, just rack a shotgun, they'll run. I don't feel like that's always true. And after doing a little bit of research into this myth, it turns out it's not. It's not the right thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many times have you heard that in your life just from everybody? And I think it comes from everybody having the consensus that a 12 gauge will put a dinner plate size hole in somebody at the right range. So
This is true.
it's like it's probably one of those things that just it's like, oh, if somebody can tell that that is a 12 gauge pump shotgun, they just know instinctively. Well, I got to get out of here. Got to run. I know it's a 12 gauge, but
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
assuming that the person that's breaking into your house is like thinking clearly,
yeah,
which I feel like more times than not is not the case.
yes. Because what happens in a home invasion is the invader is a very logistical person, and they are of sound mind breaking into your home.
Yeah, I always love that. But, and that's also, this myth is made popular by Hollywood. Like everybody's just racked the gun and people run away.
Oh, yeah,
It's not the
yeah,
case. You're basically just telling the invader, "Hey, I have a gun, so don't round that corner quick and unassuming. Just
yeah,
shoot through the wall where you heard the sound."
yeah. I feel like one of the things that actually does happen in articles or like interviews or whatnot of people in their home is and I guess unless they're one of those people who's like just waiting for somebody to invade their home and they can't wait for that situation. But for the typical person, not they're not trying to go out of their way to make them known. I mean, unless they're racking the shotgun and they're like, "Get out of my house! I have a gun." That might be like, I don't know. That could be one of those things where they're like, make yourself known that you have a gun, so they'll just leave your house. But I don't know. Is it against like any law to say I'm gonna sit in the corner until he walks in front of me because I don't want this person to know where I am in my own house?
Yeah, I mean, see, you have to look at it from a self-defense standpoint too. You can shoot them in the back even if they're in your own house because that's a quick way to go to prison.
Is
But
that or like I don't this is probably diving off the side of it. Is that a thing? Is that for real?
straight up, like, people have been sued by their home invader and lost because they shot them in the back.
What an insane thing to go through. That's got to be just wild. Should have just racked the shotgun and he would have ran off, right? Is that the whole defense? Like, if I would have heard it, I would have left because I know what a shotgun sounds like.
Right, right, yeah. Um, but I mean, and that's the thing though, is like relying on just a sound of a gun to scare someone off, it can actually escalate the situation beyond where it needs to be.
Yeah. I feel like that's
Because,
not the point of owning the gun in the first place, is like a sound deterrent either.
so long story short, racking a slide will scare someone off. Not a great idea. Obviously, we're not here to tell you what to do, nor will you be thinking clearly if you're ever in a situation like that. But just know it can escalate the situation. It can let the home invader know where you are. Just things to keep in mind if that ever were to happen.
That's a good point to make. I mean, the last thing you're going to be thinking of if you actually do have a shotgun in your hand is, oh boy, jacking off really, really put this into me. Now I know to do this or not to do this. I mean, by no means are we any source of reliable information. I mean, we like I feel like it's funny to call this a myth. I just feel like it's one of those like, wow, it's not a myth or legend. It's like just a saying or just like a there's a word for it. I'm not educated enough to whip it out right
Wives'
now,
tale.
but Yes, yes. It's like an old wives' tale. Like if you just own a shotgun, you're good to go. I mean, step one, you rack it. If they're still coming in, then everything's downhill for them after that.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah, yeah. But on the
That's
opposite end of shotguns, suppressors. So again, another movie myth: suppressors make guns silent.
I feel like we've all seen those movies where the bad guy comes in and it's like "Choo, choo," like just
Yeah.
silent, you know?
I think there's a scene in John Wick where they're shooting in like a crowded space at each other and nobody is the wiser. Nobody even knows what's going on. They're just plinking with 9 mils. Like I can't remember where they were, but they were like shooting across from each other at like on like a second story building. And everybody's just like, oh yeah, I wonder if the froyo place is open while they're just lighting rounds off. Anybody who shot a gun knows that's not the case. And I just experienced recently shooting a suppressor in real life, and it's not all that different. I mean, again, circumstances like ammo, barrel length, ammo. I think I already said ammo, but all that stuff you can make your gun quieter, and calibers matter as well. But I think it's just wild. Anybody who's shot a gun can just watch movies and be like, "This is sick," and you could
Yeah.
make a gun that quiet, but they're not all like that.
No, no. And it does come down to ammo or like what caliber you're shooting. Like 300 Blackout. That round is very well known for, suppressed being very quiet. That
Yeah,
being said, it's still not the movie silent. And I've
yeah.
definitely had like AR pistol suppressed. That'll still make your ears ring. You know, it's not quiet. It'd be cool if it was. I wish it was, but people are still definitely aware that a firearm is being discharged.
Well, so how do you? What's the decibels that can cause damage to your ears? Like I know that 85 is getting up there for a certain, like 85 decibels for an extended period of time can cause hearing damage after a while, but what is like one shock of decibels that's permanent damage?
I believe it was around that like 120 mark. So that's like for immediate permanent damage. So that's like your standard rock concert, for example.
Yeah,
Those averages
that makes
around
sense.
120 decibels. That's why when you walk out of a concert and you like can't hear shit and you're screaming at each other on the way home,
Yeah.
it's because it was at that 120 range where
Yeah.
you're hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
as opposed to like an actual gunshot, unsuppressed, you're around that 140 to 150 range, which is more it's more on the side of
Yeah.
like jet engines.
Yeah.
So unsuppressed, I know you've had this experience as well, but unsuppressed AR, just shooting it, no ear pro, just raw dogging it. It's a
Yeah.
fast route to not being able to hear for an extended period of time.
7.5-inch barrel in 223. Yeah, it's not a fun experience. But even so, shooting the same gun with a suppressor on it, I was weary because I was like, oh man, I'm gonna get my ear pro. And the person I was shooting at, they're like, you don't need it. And I was like, I kind of doubt it. I mean, it was still pretty loud, but I mean, maybe 5 minutes of my ears like kind of ringing, and then after that, it was good. I mean, it's crazy that it does make a huge difference, but it's not like, oh my god, I'm shooting an airsoft gun. Like there's nothing.
Right, right, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, in reality, suppressors reduce noise, they don't eliminate it. Your average suppressor only drops the sound by like 20 to 35 decibels. So
I,
it gets it within like a safe range, depending on what caliber you're putting through it, but it's still very noticeable amount of sound.
yeah. Well, and I think that's where that like whole, I think I said that in one of our episodes, was the difference between people saying silencer and suppressor. I think the people who at least know a lot and know enough to say, well, it doesn't silence the gun, it suppresses the noise. Like I feel like that's kind of the splitting the line of where it's like factually quote unquote correct, but I think that suppressor just seems more fitting. It sounds like a more accurate description of what is actually going on.
Absolutely. Yeah, and at the end of the day, just because it gets it in a safe range, I mean, like a rock concert being at 120 decibels. Imagine a rock concert being considered a safe level because it's right on the threshold of immediate damage, and that's where the gun's at.
Right.
It just gets it to the threshold.
Right. Well, and it's like there's that one movie. I can't. It's not Zero Dark 30. It's a Navy SEAL movie where the guy's in the water and he puts his hands out and homeboy plinks him and he falls into his hands and there's like no sound made. Crazy ass scene. It's a really cool scene, but according to American Suppressor Association, they're quote unquote they're better thought of as hearing protection and noise reduction tools, not stealth devices. Which maybe that whole thing that built up around it is all these movies and military guys using them and stuff. I would like to know a military guy's like personal opinion. Like, okay, can you walk through, a tactical situation and take out like 20 guys without anybody being the wiser? I don't
Right.
know.
And there's also something to be said about what the military has access to versus what civilians have access to. So I'm not familiar with what the military has access to, as I am not military, but I definitely know that they have access to some gear that I don't, which may be more effective.
Oh, they probably have some crazy shit in the military that civilians will either never have or years pass by and they release it because they made something even better.
Because it's an antique. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
fair enough. So overall, suppressors make guns silent, complete myth. I wish it was true. It'd be very cool if it was like the movies, but unfortunately, that is not the case. Now, moving into myth number 3 here, we've got appendix carry is unsafe for everyone.
It definitely feels unsafe when you first start doing it.
I think I said
Uh,
this in our concealed carry video. It
yeah.
it it just does, something doesn't feel right about pointing that at your little guy down there, your little fella.
Yeah. Having your 9 mil pointing at your 22, it's not fun. It honestly, like, being like just getting into like concealed carrying and being comfortable just having a gun on you. Having a gun on you from the get go feels awkward, but when you're putting a gun and aiming it directly at your crotch, you're like, man, this can't be right. I can't feel like this all the time when carrying a gun. I can't be nervous like this. But I think it depends highly on your comfortability, your holster, your training. I mean, I used to just put it in like my appendix carry and just walk around the house, like vacuum my house or like do the dishes and have one in the chamber, like not drawing it, not trying to do like drills or anything, just having it on me and practicing like what it feels like to carry like.
For sure. Yeah, like you said it best. I mean, it really comes down to training. If the more you train, the more comfortable you are. I've never personally appendix carried. I will get that out there so you guys can all say, "Yeah, he doesn't know what he's talking about." I do know what I'm talking about when it comes to pointing a gun at my crotch, and
Yeah.
it's going to take some major time before I trust myself to do that in public, or especially in a high pressure situation.
Yeah.
So make sure
Well,
you're training, getting comfortable, your gear. They produce concealed carry holsters for a reason. They wouldn't
yeah.
they wouldn't produce those holsters if they were unsafe.
Yeah. Well, and it's such a double-edged sword too because I carry appendix or on my on my hip on my dominant side. Appendix feels the most comfortable when drawing. It feels like I, I wouldn't say comfortable. It just feels like the most effective. Like it's right. You have your hands right in front of you. I mean, not often are your hands off to your side. Open carry, obviously, I feel like just the most common is like on your leg or on your hip, but it feels like the fastest way to draw. Again, I bet a guy who carries on his hip for 25 years and goes to the range 6 times a week can outdraw me in if I had it in my hand. Like, it just feels very very comfortable when drawing it. I mean, it's very fluid. I like
It's just
carrying
right
there
there,
when
right
I'm
in front of you. You don't
yeah,
have to, reach awkwardly. You don't have to peel up your like the side of your shirt. It's really easy. Just grab the front of your shirt and pull it up.
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you think about it too, like, there's no difference between carrying appendix versus on your hip. Like, if let's say you carry those 2 positions with the same gun, there's no real differences between it being one being safe versus the other. And people probably make the arguments like, oh, well, you got it pointed at your femoral artery and you could accidentally discharge and, you know, there you go, you're done. Versus like, oh, I carry my hip because it's pointed away from me. Some people are like, well, depending on the holster, you're aiming it right at your ass cheek and you're getting shot anyway if it goes off. I have yet to experience an accidental discharge because I don't own a SIG anymore. But and people get I've heard some pretty wild points. Like when you bend over when you're carrying hip, you're flagging people behind you, and it's like, maybe. I mean, but also if you have a good holster that covers the trigger guard and you can't get anything inside it, then I feel like you're pretty safe overall. And again, it depends on the gun, depends on what you're carrying. I feel like another good thing to mention too is just the most unsafe thing about carrying is if you have to reholster it, because that's the time you're going to accidental discharge on yourself more than just having it in there and you moving around, bending over, and walking around.
Right. For
Get
sure.
clothing stuck in there, your finger catches on whatever. I mean, it all comes down to just practicing to make sure you avoid any of these situations. But it feels like that the most unsafe, quote unquote, about appendix carry is if you have to reholster it. But that's very situational.
For sure. And at the end of the day, I mean, it comes down to what you're comfortable with. For me, the first pistol that I bought, I made sure that it had a thumb safety on it. I wanted not only the trigger safety, but a thumb safety. It just felt more, it made me feel more comfortable handling it.
Right.
Now, now that I've had a little bit more experience with handguns, I have gotten that second pistol that only it doesn't have that thumb safety on it. It still makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but that's why I get out, I shoot more, and I'm becoming more comfortable with the idea of not having that thumb safety. So, I'm not here to give you advice on what to carry because that really comes down to personal opinion, what fits you best. But at the end of the day, for me, being comfortable carrying, that thumb safety would be a good barrier before I move to no thumb safety, because then at least I know that that gun cannot go off without flicking that safety.
Yeah. You'll probably get the people out there too, like, well, any gun has a chance of misfiring. It's like, yes, but that's also like saying any tire that's on a car has a chance of exploding randomly. I mean, I've never heard of a story where somebody was on the news saying a man's gun just went off again, unless it's a SIG. I'm gonna shit on SIG a little bit, but it's just one of those things that it really comes down to your personal preference. And I feel like we're gonna get so repetitive with that just because being into guns, there's so many different kinds, calibers, styles, holsters, gear. Like there's so much to dive into that I feel like there's never going to be a true answer. Like I feel like for appendix carrying, it's not inherently unsafe, but it could make somebody feel uncomfortable enough to the point where they don't even want to carry. And, you should be carrying. But it's kind of like another myth that we have on here, 45 versus 9 mil. And stopping power is all about the caliber.
This is going to be a heated one. I'm excited for it.
Well, let me first ask. Okay, I know what guns you have, but I would
Mhm.
like to ask you, what do you prefer, 45 versus 9?
Truly, I prefer 9 mil. I've said it before. I feel that I have a lot more control with a 9 mil versus a 45. I also have more rounds in a 9 mil than I do a 45, which in a scenario where I would have to use that for my personal defense, I personally would have rather have more rounds, more penetration, and more accuracy over just the bluntness of a larger round hitting the target.
Yeah. I thought you were about to mess with me and be like 10 mil all the way. Neither.
Dude, I've been watching some videos on 10 mil. Whew,
Uh,
it's kind of making me want one. I can't lie.
really? I don't see how much different is that than a 9 mil?
See, like I can't get into specifics, but all I know is
I just don't know.
when I saw a guy shoot it at frying pans to see how many it would go through, 10 mil went through a lot more than 9 mil did.
Well, I feel like that's what it's comparing is penetration power. I mean, anybody knows that the grain of a bullet just entirely is measuring how heavy the projectile is. So you have a heavier projectile, it's going slower. It might not penetrate as much. So I feel like the penetration power is like more important to me. And again, the round capacity is a big thing. And people can probably be like, this guy just sucks. He can't hit somebody in 7 rounds or less. It's like, yeah, maybe not. But also just having more rounds on you, I feel like it's just a, a better outlook on life. If you have more rounds, then you don't got to worry. But I kind of in the same boat as you, having 2 9 mils, and I thought about buying a 45 because I was like, I don't have one, and I like them. It's not like I'm sitting here saying 45 blows, 9 mils the only way. Anybody who carries 45 is wrong. I mean, it goes
We
back
all
to what I
have
said
that
about
one
like
friend though.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
I carry a 45 because I'm not a bitch. Or
yeah. I
just
carry a
like
45 because it's like a shotgun in your hands. Like when
yeah, I
I
carry a
hear
45 because they don't make a 46.
you could pull up a ballistics test side by side of a 9 mil and 45 and not label it, and I would love to see if people could just immediately, like right off the rip, tell which one is which.
Here, we'll pop up a little graphic between 9 mil and 45. You really it's I mean, it looks like the 45 may have slightly more initial expansion, but the overall wound cavity,
Oh my god, I'm
9
one of those
9 mil
people.
takes
40
the
45's
cake.
on the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, yeah, I would have thought just again me being not the most educated, I'd be like top is 45 and bottom is 9 mil.
But I mean, in reality, even if it was switched, these wound cavities are not that different.
No, it looks like you have a little bit more consistency of pattern through the 9 mil, and the 45 just kind of dies out after one big expansion.
And I mean, we're talking about, I know we talked about penetration. We're looking at 13 inches versus 13 and a quarter.
Yeah,
Like they're
you're
not
splitting
all
hairs.
that different.
No, and I mean the whole point is to effectively. I, I'm always going to talk about guns in the sense of like why we have them is for us it's protection, right? Like both of these are going to stop somebody from stealing my shit in my house or hurting my family without a doubt.
For sure.
Now, if somebody comes in my house with level 4 plates, I'm not equipped for that. Maybe I got to up my arsenal, but I feel like it's just personal preference what this is. I mean, you could show
As
somebody
most things
9 mil
are
and
in the gun world.
45. Oh yeah, you could show this to both a 9 mil diehard or 45 diehard, and they would make their case in point on why either is better just on this picture alone. And I feel like it's like hell yeah. I mean, whatever you like, you like. I feel like a lot of people get shit on because they're like, oh my god, this guy carries 380, and then the 9 mil and 45 people are like, oh, we both hate that guy. It it's all so wildly up to what you like. I mean, it's just one of those hobbies, man, where like, I could shit on a guy for loving 22, and that's just not my bag, man.
Oh, so every conversation we have outside of recording this.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you could say
I'm a
the
big
same
22
thing.
fan. I'm not going to apologize for that.
No, and
It's a
I
fun
give you
round.
shit. I give you shit because it's the same thing. If you were a diehard 45, I'd be like, oh yeah, you're so bad at shooting, you'll never hit them, and you'll need that. You'll love those extra 10 rounds. But it's the same thing. Like 22 is not my bag. It was when I was younger and learning to shoot. I felt like I was shooting a 9 mil. And then as I got older and I got more shooting, I just feel like it doesn't do the same thing for me. It doesn't give me that same like, yes, this is what I need.
Now, one thing I do want to clarify before the keyboard warriors just start yelling at me, I would never use 22 in a home, like a self defense situation. It's a fun range round. I have a good time with it. I own a couple of them, but never in a self defense situation.
Belt fed FRT drum or belt fed FRT AR-15. That's your home defense right there. Dream home defense gun.
22?
22? Yeah, 22.
Jeez. That sounds like a good time to me. Maybe not the self defense situation, but
Yeah.
the rest of it
yeah.
sounds fun.
And this is, I feel like we should make a point too that this is strictly talk about 45 versus 9 mil. Now, if you're talking like, okay, this guy carries a 357, clearly it's going to do more damage than a 9 mil. I mean, out west, I know people who hunt, and when they're hunting, they carry a heavy round in a revolver rather than carrying a 9 mil because, you run across a bear, a mountain lion, whatnot. I would trust a 357 versus a 9 mil. And it's just one of those things like 45 and 9 mil is such a common debate that I think it's one of those things that has to be talked about. And then outside of that, it's like apples and oranges. You just really can't compare. I mean, you could, but again, you might just fall into some of these same categories. Like I said, like, oh, 9 mil versus 10 mil. What's the big difference? And then it just gets into guys who like what they like. So they're passionate about it.
Right. And I
Or
mean,
gals.
those conversations, I feel like they're important to have. They're fun to have. I'm always open to them. That's where you really learn something.
Oh, yeah. Some of the most fun conversations I've had are the most heated about what is better about something or why it works better or anything that you find somebody who has a complete opposing view and just love to see how much you believe in what you believe and hear what their side is to it as well.
Absolutely. And speaking of sparking conversation, we're going to get into, I'm going to do it. I'm going to ask you guys, what one's better in the comments, 45 or 9 mil?
No.
Get the arguments going.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, everything's it's all about what you like, but tell me why the other one's better.
Tell me why you think 9 mil is better, because it for sure is.
I again, I feel like to summarize this, the stopping power in it of itself is a myth in terms of like, okay, 45 versus 9 mil. 45 is not going to just blow the door off its hinges. And 9 mil is just going to
It
act like
happens.
20. It's like 9 mils compared to 45 is like a 22 long rifle. That's just, it's not true.
It's not. And at the end of the day, both rounds, unless you hit like the central nervous system, you're not going to instantly stop them.
Yeah. The stopping power is completely shutting somebody down by shooting them in the right place, which you can do with either 45 or 9 mil.
One thing I will say though, 9 mil gives you more opportunities to do so.
Yeah. Again, I think that's just such a big thing is like, you can't be mad at having more rounds on you.
No, never a bad thing.
No.
And here's kind of an interesting one. I didn't know that this was a myth. Really, it seems kind of self-explanatory to myself, but maybe to some more like inexperienced shooters, it might be something worth covering. The myth is you'll shoot just as well in a real situation. So basically what this myth is talking about is like a lot of people assume if they can shoot well at the range, they'll shoot the same way in a self-defense situation. The thing that this myth doesn't take into account is the amount of stress and like the adrenaline dump, your heart rate spikes, your motor skills drop, you get that tunnel vision. It's a little bit harder to shoot in that state compared to when you're just calm at the range.
Yeah.
I think
I
you
didn't
would
even
agree.
know that this was like classified as like a big myth. I think maybe it's just one of those things that's taught when people start shooting is no matter how much you train, your body is going to naturally react to a fight or flight situation. And I mean, if you think about anything in your life, like public speaking in high school, if you're not, you can talk to your friends all day long, but the minute you get up in front of a crowd, you forget how to speak your language. You forget like how to move properly, how to not just like have like random issues come up when you're like, man, I've been talking for years. You would think I'd be pretty good at it by
Right. Yeah, and then somebody shows you a video after, and you're like, "I cannot believe that that's me."
you're like, oh my God, I was kicked in the head by a horse.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, like, that's just fear of public speaking. Now imagine that your life is on the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, dude, I had this one time when I was growing up, I was coming up from the basement, I was working out in the gym down there. I saw the door was open, and for whatever reason, my brain was just like, "Home intruder." I instantly, like, my breathing completely changed. I started shaking, like, the adrenaline dump is insane when you feel like you're in that type of situation. Now, granted, I've never been in a true self-defense situation. I was just an idiot growing up. So, I can't say exactly what it's like when your life is truly on the line, but having that minor experience, I know for a fact I would not have been able to hit the broadside of a barn in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, I thank God have never had to been in that situation either. There was one time where there was a weird dude following me home and because he was, road rage situation. And I got home and I was in my house and I had a gun because I was like, okay, I'm just going to drive. I'm going to drive home and we'll call it a day. And this guy like stopped out in front of the house. Just that moment, like I'm inside my locked house with the blind shut. He can't see me. I'm still like, my heart's going. And then he just was like walking around for a bit and then he left. Even just after that, I mean, my heart was beating like a running rabbit. I mean, it's crazy how fast it happens too. And that was over like a 20-minute exchange of driving, getting home. Okay, it's to the point where I think I would like to have a gun right now in terms of what this guy may or may not do. And it's just it's such a wild feeling and you can experience it doing anything. I mean, like riding roller coasters, like public speaking, like I said, getting into a minor car accident where you can like get out and you're not hurt and you just realize what happened and you're in shock. I mean, it's crazy how insane the body reacts to certain situations.
For sure. Yeah, and the other day, you and I were reading about the Yerkes-Dodson curve. So that
Yeah,
basically outlines just, like, the psychological principle illustrating, like, there's an optimal level of stress or arousal for like, compared to performance, and
yeah.
we'll pop up a graphic here of what that looks like, but basically, you have that optimal level of stress where you can still function normally, and it may actually enhance your performance, but once you tilt the scale past that, that's when you become, not reliable. You can't rely on your body to just know what to do in that moment.
I kind of compare that to like if anybody's played sports, this is probably something you've experienced, at least what I have. Like right before a game, like your heart's going, you're nervous, but you're amped, you're ready to play, you're ready to go out and like compete or hit somebody, and it does feel like that gives you an edge, like a little bit of adrenaline, like gets you going. It makes you feel like you're, on top of the world. But it's like you said, on our little Bill Nye segment here on this graphic, it shows that once you get to a certain point, your body just shuts down and it doesn't know how to properly run because you're so overwhelmed with stress and anxiety and adrenaline and everything's just pounding you all at once. And I feel like that's one thing you can train to do. Obviously, there's probably hundreds of thousands of things that people can do training to get used to it. I mean, there's ranges where, I've seen where guys are yelling at people over their head, but shooting in a controlled environment, just trying to learn how to block out chaos and make decisions under pressure, even if it's like a finite amount of pressure. I mean, all those little things can kind of add up and help you in the long run and better prepare you. I mean, practicing like tap rack and clear, having stovepipes, having misfeeds, having external noise. You run drills that you actually carry in real life or that you actually own.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like the biggest thing is just when you're training, run drills, do what you need to do to simulate that stress, because the overall myth being that you'll shoot just as well in the real situation. Just because you're accurate at the range, when that adrenaline dump hits you, that's all going to go out the window if you have not practiced under stress. So
Yeah.
doing what you can to simulate a stressful situation is going to be very beneficial for you.
Yeah. I think overall for everything, some of these are like I feel like myths. Like the stopping power one, I feel like is probably anybody who's touched a gun has heard that one. In terms of the one we just talked about, you'll shoot just as well in a real situation. I feel like that's something that people know, but also are very quick to learn that that's just not true. I mean, it's something that you can learn very fast, that you need to be prepared for something that is as serious as being stressful or being stressed while having to fire a gun. And some of these other things, again, is like the appendix carry. That's personal preference. People can probably go round and round on that one, but overall I feel like these are some good things to actually just know in terms of being around guns, just so having the most information possible. I mean, that's why we do this. We like to be informed, and we may sound like we're two dumbasses who don't know what we're talking about, which may be true 50% of the time, if not more. But
50's
it's always
generous.
good. 50 centers. It's always good to know. It's you can never learn. You can never not learn enough.
Yeah, and I think the
Done did not learn enough.
I think the general point of what we're trying to convey here is like we're just having a conversation. We learn just as much from the comments as we do from each other talking.
Oh
So,
yeah.
let us know below if there's anything that we didn't cover or you feel that we should have covered with any of these myths. Let us know if there are any myths that we did not cover at all, that you'd like to hear covered. Let us know, and we'd be more than happy to discuss it.
Yeah. We'd love to learn.
But we appreciate you listening. If you like the episode, let us know. Give us a like, subscribe, and anything else from you?
No, just can't wait to see what else we drum up that we'd like to learn about, and see if anybody else can help us out. I mean, I guess I would classify us as like novice intermediate in terms of just overall gun knowledge, and always want to be always want to be in the know. So anything that anybody can throw our way that we would be have fun to learn about, absolutely throw it
Yeah.
our way.
Don't be a dickhead. Nobody likes a dickhead.